And hello everyone, Commander Simlex here, and today I will be doing some more War Thunder. And today I will be teaching you about some basic maneuvers that you can use to avoid incoming enemy fire in the game. And my ally just passed through me. Fascinating. Anyway, I will be teaching, as I was saying, you guys will be learning from me in this video how to do basic maneuvers, and this can help newcomers to the game in avoiding being shot down instantly when they enter a match. And in order to cater this game or this video to the most people, I have chosen to do this in a biplane and in arcade mode. Now, this is actually a custom battle on the map of Malta in an effort to provide a more controlled environment for my lessons in maneuvering. Now, as you saw, actually, before I get ahead of myself, let's begin. What you saw during takeoff was one of the things I will be teaching. So let's start with that. There is one maneuver that you will see constantly in War Thunder in order to avoid, which people will use in order to avoid bullets, and that is a roll. Now, to do a roll, you basically move the mouse in this manner, in a sort of circular motion, as if you can see my cursor moving around. That's roughly the motion you want if you follow the radical on screen. That's roughly the mouse motion you want, but then if you combine this mouse motion at the same time with hitting the A or D keys, then you do a roll. So that. The A and D keys perform a roll with your aircraft, and that, combined with the circular mouse movement, also makes your aircraft really hard to hit. As you can see, the target is moving around quite radically and rather erratically. So, then let's move on to another maneuver, which can be used to throw an enemy off your tail. So say you have an enemy behind you, and they're firing bullets at you, and a roll won't work. You can either choose some, basically, you have many options. You can either go into a dive and continue to do your rolls, and then pull up and continue to do your rolls, and try to throw them off by turning, etc. And you can do your rolls while turning, going down, up and down, as much as you'd want in order to try and throw them off. But another maneuver you can do is a pament turn, which is to throw your aircraft to the side, hold, and then hit Q to turn your rudder at the same. What you do, actually, that was rather sloppy. I will do it again for demonstration purposes. You cut the throttle, you hit the rudder, and then when it's in full turn like this, you then go full throttle again once you turn all the way around. And the rudder keys in War Thunder are Q and E, so I will demonstrate that again. So if there's an enemy behind you, or a group of enemies approaching you, pardon me, I must deal with this guy down here. There we go. Now, as I was saying, if there's an enemy behind you, or a group of enemies approaching you from behind, and you want to do a quick turn, you can do a pament. So, in War Thunder, that means cutting the throttle to absolute 0, hitting Q or E, and then moving your plane to the direction in which the rudder is pulling your plane. And then once you are completely turned around, you throttle back up to 100%. And then that will put you in position to attack the enemies which are approaching. Now, be cautioned when doing this maneuver, as you are quite vulnerable to attack when in the middle of this turn, due to the fact that when you have your rudder deployed, your speed is almost 0. And the fact that when you are doing a turn like this, you cannot have your throttle on, as it will cause the turn to malfunction. So you will be very, very vulnerable. So the only thing you can basically do this maneuver for is if the enemy is a fair distance away and you wish to attack. Now, another maneuver which you can do to get an enemy off of your back is basically a swap out. And this swap out, and I'll gain some speed because I'll need speed to demonstrate this. You basically, if the enemy is behind you and following you, close pursuit, and you see that the enemy is not letting up, you then go hard up, straight up, and then you can use C to orient your camera to see the enemy behind you. And keep an eye on your airspeed. You may have to do several rolls in order to, while you are doing this, in order to avoid bullets. But once you reach this point where you're about to stall, you then hit the rudder to try and keep you stable. And then once you see an opportunity, you arc back down, and your plane will almost do this automatically because you're stalling, and then fire away. And this will swap positions, because once you stall and you hold with your rudder, in either direction it works, you just hold your position for a certain amount of time, upright, and then once you see an opportunity, you let go of the rudder, and you arc back down and head straight towards your target that was following you, and either he will choose to collide with you, which would not be smart because that wastes an aircraft on their side, or he will then have to pass you, and in passing you, you have some opportunities to hit him or her. And that, in turn, will help you survive. Now, this maneuver is rather tricky. I have to say that it also does not always work. You can have an opponent which will anticipate this and thus throttle down to prevent you from swapping places, or transversely, the opponent may have an aircraft which has a higher rate of climb than you, or a higher ceiling altitude, and thus will then be able to actually go higher than you, and at that point, you actually end up having a situation where no matter if you stall or not, you have an enemy which will just be able to outmaneuver you. And even though an enemy may have a higher ceiling than you, this is not always a bad thing, because even if you do stall out, it means that he's going too fast, potentially, and will still have to overtake you, and then you have an opportunity to fire back. And also, another caution when using this maneuver is that if the enemy realizes what you're doing, they may just decide to use your slow speed to aim very, very well and hit your pilot or hit something critical that you will need. Come here. Come here. Yeah, this one. Okay. Can I not hit this guy? He's barely moving. Okay. That's better. Anyway, so those are some basic maneuvers that you can use in War Thunder to avoid bullets. And in the case of these aircraft, the biplane is one of the most maneuverable aircraft in the game. You will have to adapt these tactics for different aircraft, such as the monoplanes like the Spitfire or the Hurricane. But there is one other thing that you may need, and that is there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that beats situational awareness. If you have a surround sound headset or a virtual reality headset or an ability to, or constantly, sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself again, or you just use C a lot to look around you, you can then dodge their incoming fire as best you can and avoid being killed that way. Situational awareness is key. Even with these maneuvers, no situational awareness will be deadly in War Thunder. And also another tip, if you are following a target and you are following rather closely and you're zoomed in to try and make the marksman hit, you may want to consider getting away from your target after a while and evasive maneuvers, because if you stick with one target for too long, it is very possible that an enemy like that will attempt to kill you. And then one final tip I can leave beginners with is, historically, in the real life Battle of Britain, the RAF manual stated that you are not to keep your altitude and heading constant for more than 30 seconds. And this actually has proved to serve me quite well in War Thunder. And I would recommend that to anyone, veteran or beginner, because that has definitely saved me quite a few times in battles. But anyway, that is maneuvering and a few tips for beginners and veterans alike in War Thunder to prevent you being shot down instantly in battle. And now I will get back to this battle and assist my allies. And all of you, I will see you in the skies and on the ground in War Thunder. Commander Simlex, out.